The email from my brother sat unopened in my inbox for 3 days, its subject line screaming in all caps, "Urgent, need your help." I knew exactly what it would say, and that's precisely why I couldn't bring myself to read it. Funny how success makes you suddenly visible to those who once refused to see you. I'm Nicole, and 10 years ago, my family told me I was throwing my life away by moving to London to pursue my MBA. The family business needs you here, my father had said, his disappointment evident in every syllable. My mother's words were even sharper. Always living in a fantasy world, aren't you, Nicole? My phone buzzed. Sophia's name flashed across the screen. "Have you read it yet?" she asked without preamble. "Hello to you too," I said, spinning in my office chair to face the London skyline. "And no, I haven't. Girl, you're the CEO of a tech consulting firm. You can't avoid emails forever." I sighed, clicking open the dreaded message. Austin's desperate words spilled across my screen. Financial trouble, impending bankruptcy, need for immediate investment, family legacy at stake. "He needs £2 million, I told Sophia. "Says the business will go under without it." "The same business they wouldn't let you modernize?" Sophia's laugh was bitter. "The one your brother took over because daughters don't understand tradition?" The memory stung. I remembered that family dinner clearly. Austin in his new suit, Dad beaming with pride, Mom fussing over him, while I sat there with my acceptance letter to London Business School, unmentioned and unnoticed. "They don't know, do they?" Sophia asked. "About your success?" "No," I replied, walking to the window. "They stopped following my life when I stopped following their plans." My assistant knocked on the door. "Ms. Wilcox, your 2 p.m. is here." "Thanks, Sarah. I'll be right there." I turned back to my phone. "Sophia, I have to go." "Wait, what are you going to do about Austin?" I glanced at the framed document on my wall, my first major acquisition. Something they'll never expect. That evening, I sat in my penthouse apartment, scrolling through old family photos on my laptop. There was one from my graduation, me, alone, because they were all at Austin's business launch that day. Another from Christmas 5 years ago, the last time I visited home. Mom had asked if I was still playing at being a businesswoman in London. My phone pinged with another email from Austin. "Nick, please respond. We're desperate here." I opened my safe and pulled out the document I'd been holding on to for 6 months. The deed to our family home, which I'd bought through a holding company when the bank threatened foreclosure. They didn't even know it was me who now owned the roof over their heads. My hands shook as I dialed Sophia's number. "I'm booking a flight home," I said when she answered. "You're going to help them?" "I'm going to make them see me." I pulled up my airline app. "Really see me for the first time." "Nicole?" Sophia's voice softened. "Just don't lose yourself in trying to prove something." "I'm not proving anything," I said, but we both knew that wasn't entirely true. "I'm just finally taking my seat at the table." I booked the flight for next week, first class. As I packed my laptop away, a notification popped up. My company's stock had risen another 3% today. The irony wasn't lost on me. The daughter they said would amount to nothing now had the power to save or sink their entire world. My phone buzzed again, Mom this time. "Austin says he's contacted you. Your father and I think you should help your brother. It's what family does." I thought about all the times I needed family, all the dreams they dismissed, all the support they withheld. Now they needed me, and I held all the cards. I texted back a single line, "I'll be home next week." Then I opened my safe again, tucked the house deed into my briefcase, and smiled. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it just needs to be patient. Sophia texted, "You okay?" "I am," I replied, and for the first time in years, I truly was. They wanted me to come home and help with the family business. Well, I'm finally ready to do exactly that. I closed my laptop and walked to my bedroom window, looking out at the London lights. In 7 days, I would walk into my childhood home, not as the daughter they dismissed, but as the woman who owned it. The thought made me smile. Let them underestimate me one last time. You're taking the house deed with you? Sophia watched me pack from my bed, her expression concerned. That's like bringing a nuclear weapon to a knife fight. I folded another blazer into my suitcase. It's insurance. Against what? Against them dismissing me again. I held up 2 pairs of heels. The black or the red? The red. Nothing says I own you quite like Louboutins. Sophia sat up straighter. Have you told Yael you're going? I paused. Yael, my brother's business partner, had reached out to me privately last month with concerns about Austin's management. No, but I'm meeting her for coffee when I get there. My phone rang. Mom again. I let it go to voicemail. Third call today, Sophia noted. They must be really desperate. The voicemail notification pinged. I put it on speaker. Nicole, dear, just checking your flight details. We've prepared your old room. Austin's wife made your favorite cookies. Her voice trailed off awkwardly. Well, what used to be your favorite anyway? It's been so long, hasn't it? Sophia rolled her eyes. Funny how they remember you have a favorite cookie when they need 2 million pounds. 1.5 million, I corrected, zipping my suitcase. The pound-dollar exchange rate works in their favor. You're not seriously considering giving them the money? I sat beside her on the bed. I'm considering showing them exactly who I've become. Whether that includes saving the business? I shrugged. That depends on them. My assistant Sarah knocked and entered with a folder. Your itinerary, Ms. Wilcox, and the latest reports on your brother's company. How bad is it? Sophia asked after Sarah left. I flipped through the pages. Worse than they're telling me. They're not just failing. They're in free fall. Austin's taken out 3 high-interest loans in the past year. Jesus. Yeah. I closed the folder. And that's not even counting the mortgage they almost defaulted on. Sophia grabbed my hand. Promise me something? What? Promise you won't let them guilt you into fixing everything. You're not responsible for their mistakes. My phone buzzed with a text from Austin. Dad's asking when exactly you're arriving. Says he wants to pick you up. The same dad who didn't pick me up when I landed for Christmas 5 years ago? I texted back. I've arranged my own transportation, thanks. Sophia read the exchange over my shoulder. Good girl. I learned from the best. I smiled at her. Remember when you found me crying in the bathroom during orientation? Because your mom told you you'd fail within a month? Yeah, I remember. She squeezed my hand. Look at you now. The intercom buzzed. My car to Heathrow had arrived. Sophia helped me with my luggage. At the door, she hugged me tight. Remember who you are now. Don't let them make you feel small again. In the elevator, I checked my email one last time. A message from Yael caught my eye. Heard you're coming home. We need to talk. Austin doesn't know I'm contacting you. The car ride to Heathrow was quiet. I watched London slip away, the city that had given me everything my family said I couldn't have. At security, I pulled out the house deed one last time, checking it was real. The paper felt heavy with possibility, or perhaps threat. My name, clear as day, hidden behind a corporate veil they hadn't bothered to investigate. Business or pleasure? The flight attendant asked as I settled into first class. I thought about the deed in my bag, about Austin's desperate emails, about Mom's forced cheerfulness, and Dad's sudden desire to pick me up. Neither, I replied. Family? She nodded sympathetically and offered me champagne. I accepted, raising the glass in a silent toast to the view outside my window. Somewhere over the Atlantic, my old life was waiting. But this time, I wasn't arriving as the daughter they could ignore. My phone buzzed one final time before airplane mode. A family photo from Mom, taken at the last Christmas I attended. Everyone smiling, me slightly apart, already planning my escape. Coming home is always special, she'd written. I typed back, yes it is. Then added silently to myself, especially when you own it. The plane took off, carrying me toward a confrontation 10 years in the making. In my bag, the deed waited like a loaded gun. In my head, Sophia's words echoed, remember who you are now. I closed my eyes, feeling the altitude change. Time to show them exactly who I'd become. The Uber pulled up to my childhood home, and I had to smile at the irony. They still didn't know I owned the pristine colonial, with its perfectly manicured lawn and fresh paint job, all maintained by the property management company I'd hired. Mom burst out the front door before I could even grab my luggage. Nicole! Oh, sweetheart. She rushed forward, arms open, wearing the pearl necklace she always saved for special occasions. Hi, Mom. I accepted her hug, stiff and formal. You look so different. She stepped back, taking in my tailored suit and designer handbag. London's been good to you? Very. I wheeled my suitcase toward the house. Where's everyone else? Inside, Austin's been pacing all morning. Dad stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. There's my girl, he said, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The living room felt smaller than in my memories. Austin sat on the edge of the couch, fingers drumming against his knee. He jumped up when he saw me. Nick, thank God you're here. He moved to hug me, but I stepped aside, setting my bag down. Let's skip the pretense, I said. You need money. Mom's breath caught. Nicole, he's your brother. Yes, and he only remembers that when he needs something. I turned to Austin. How bad is it really? He loosened his tie. It's complicated. Try me. I do handle multi-million-dollar accounts for a living. Dad's eyebrows shot up. You do what now? Oh, didn't Austin tell you? When he asked for help, he must have mentioned researching my company? Silence fell. Austin's face reddened. You didn't research me at all, did you? I laughed. You just assumed I'd have enough savings from some middle management job to help out. Now, wait a minute, Dad started, but I held up my hand. I'm meeting Yael for coffee in an hour. Maybe she can fill in the blanks you're leaving out. Austin's face went from red to white. You're meeting Yael? Why? Because, unlike some people, she did her homework. I checked my watch. Mom, is my old room ready? I'd like to freshen up. Mom nodded mutely, still processing. I grabbed my bag and headed upstairs, their whispered conversation following me. Did you know she was successful? Why didn't you tell us, Austin? I didn't. I assumed. My old room was exactly as I'd left it, down to the college pennants I'd pinned up before leaving, dreams they'd dismissed as unrealistic. Now they hung like badges of defiance. My phone buzzed. A text from Yael. Coffee shop on 5th? There's a lot you need to know. I texted back confirmation just as a soft knock came at my door. Mom entered, carrying fresh towels, her hands trembling slightly. Nicole, She set the towels down. We didn't know about your success. You never asked. I know. She sat on my bed, smoothing invisible wrinkles from the comforter. When you left, it was easier to imagine you struggling. It made us feel better about, she trailed off, about pushing me away? About being wrong. Her voice cracked. The business is failing, Nicole. Has been for years. Austin tried to modernize, but he didn't know how. I finished for her, because the person who could have helped was told she didn't understand tradition. Mom's eyes welled up. Your father was wrong. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I checked my phone again. I need to get ready for my meeting. She stood, wiping her eyes. Will you, will you help? Can you? I thought about the deed in my briefcase, about the years of dismissal and doubt, about Austin's desperate emails and Dad's sudden interest in picking me up from the airport. I haven't decided yet. I moved toward the bathroom. But Mom? She turned back. Yes? Those pearls you're wearing? I have a pair just like them. Bought them myself. Funny how things work out, isn't it? She touched her necklace, nodded once, and left. I heard her footsteps pause outside my door, then continue down the hall. In the bathroom, I reapplied my lipstick and straightened my jacket. Somewhere below, Austin was probably still trying to explain to Dad how he'd missed his sister becoming more successful than him. My phone buzzed again. Sophia. How's it going? Just getting started, I replied. Meeting Yael next. Time to find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes. I took one last look in the mirror, adjusted my Cartier watch, the first expensive thing I'd bought myself, and smiled. The real show was about to begin. Yael was already waiting when I arrived at the coffee shop, her laptop open and a stack of papers beside her. She stood to greet me, her handshake firm and professional. You look nothing like your LinkedIn photo, she said, sitting back down. That's from 5 years ago. A lot's changed. I ordered an espresso. So, tell me what my brother won't. Yael pushed a spreadsheet across the table. We're not just in trouble, Nicole. We're 3 weeks from complete collapse. I scanned the numbers, my stomach tightening. These vendor payments are overdue. That's not even the worst part. She pulled up more documents. Austin's been moving money between accounts to hide the losses from your parents. He even took out a second mortgage on the house. I smiled despite myself. Did he now? The bank was about to foreclose 6 months ago, but some investment firm bought the debt. She shrugged. Bought us some time at least. Interesting. I sipped my espresso. And the business loans? Due next month, all of them. Yael ran a hand through her hair. I've tried to stop him, tried to implement changes, but he won't listen. Says the traditional way is the only way. Sounds familiar. I knew you'd understand. That's why I reached out. She leaned forward. Nicole, I've seen your company's work. The innovations you've implemented. We need that here. You mean you need my money? No, she shook her head. We need you, your expertise, your leadership. She paused. Though the money wouldn't hurt. My phone buzzed. A text from Austin. Where are you? We need to discuss the investment. Speaking of my brother, I showed Yael the message. He's panicking, she said. The staff hasn't been paid in 2 weeks. I gathered the documents, taking photos with my phone. Thank you for this. It's illuminating. What are you going to do? Have dinner with my family. I stood, straightening my jacket. Would you like to join us? Her eyes widened. Are you sure that's wise? Absolutely not. I smiled. That's what makes it perfect. 2 hours later, we sat around the dining room table, the tension thick enough to cut. Mom had outdone herself with dinner, clearly trying to recreate the family meals of the past. So, Yael, Dad said, cutting his steak, nice of you to join us. Nicole invited me. She glanced at Austin, who hadn't touched his food. I thought it would be good to discuss things openly. There's nothing to discuss, Austin snapped. This is a family matter. Is it? I set down my fork. Because from what I've seen today, this is a business matter, a very serious one. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her wine. What do you mean? Should I tell them, Austin? Or would you prefer to explain the second mortgage, the unpaid vendors, the staff waiting for their paychecks? Dad's face reddened. What is she talking about, son? It's not. I was handling it, Austin stammered. If Nicole would just help with the investment. Investment? I laughed. You mean bailout. Now, see here, Dad started, but I cut him off. No, you see here. I pulled out my phone, pulling up my company's website. See that number? That's my company's annual revenue. And that one? That's our market valuation. Mom gasped. Yael smiled into her wine glass. But that's. Dad squinted at the screen. More money than this family has ever seen? I finished for him. Yes, it is. Funny what can happen when you let your daughter pursue her dreams. Austin pushed back from the table. So, you're rich now. Congratulations. Are you going to help us or just rub our faces in it? I reached for my briefcase. Actually, I already have helped, though you didn't know it. I pulled out the deed. Remember that investment firm that bought your mortgage? The color drained from Austin's face as I slid the document across the table. That was you? Mom whispered. Surprise. I took a sip of wine. I own the house you're sitting in. Dad grabbed the deed, hands shaking as he read. How? When? 6 months ago. When Austin's secret second mortgage was about to default. I turned to my brother. You really should read the fine print on those documents you sign. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom started to cry quietly. Dad stared at the deed like it might bite him. Austin looked like he might be sick. Yael cleared her throat. Perhaps this is a good time to discuss restructuring options? I stood, smoothing my skirt. Yes, let's. But first, I think my family needs a moment to process the fact that the daughter they dismissed now holds their future in her hands. I walked to the window, looking out at the property that was now legally mine. Behind me, the weight of a decade of dismissal and doubt finally shifted, landing squarely on their shoulders. You planned this? Austin's voice broke the silence. All of it. You let us struggle while you waited for the perfect moment to humiliate us. I turned from the window. Humiliate you? No, Austin. You did that yourself when you gambled with this family's future. That's enough. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. Both of you? Is it? I raised an eyebrow. Because I think we're just getting started. Yael cleared her throat. The business numbers? The business numbers show incompetence, I cut in. Or worse. Mom stood suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. Nicole, please, come with me, now. She didn't wait for a response, just walked toward the kitchen. After a moment's hesitation, I followed. The kitchen still smelled like fresh bread. Mom's stress baking hadn't changed. She closed the door behind us and leaned against the counter. There's something you don't know, she said quietly, about why we pushed you away from the business. Save the excuses. Your father was protecting you. Her voice cracked. The business, it wasn't just failing now. It was failing then, too. I froze. What? We were in debt up to our ears. Your father. She wiped her eyes. He knew you had potential. Real potential. Not like. She stopped herself. Not like Austin? She nodded slowly. When you got that scholarship to London, your father forged documents to reject other business loan offers. He knew if you saw the real numbers, you'd stay. Try to fix things. So you pushed me away instead? My voice rose. Made me feel worthless? We made you angry enough to leave. She pulled something from a drawer, an old envelope. This came for you, the day after you left. Your father never sent it. Inside was a job offer from a prestigious consulting firm in New York. Starting salary that would have seemed enormous to my younger self. He said if you saw this, you might choose something safe instead of following your dreams. Mom's hands trembled. We were wrong about so many things, Nicole, but not about your potential. The kitchen door opened. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Is this true? I held up the letter. He nodded slowly. The only good decision I ever made as a father was making you hate us enough to leave. Dad, no, let me finish. He stepped into the kitchen. I watched you fight for every dream we dismissed, watched you prove us wrong from afar, and now, he gestured vaguely toward the dining room, now you're everything we knew you could be. Everything, Austin? Everything I'm not, Austin said from the doorway. His eyes were red. That's what this is really about, isn't it? The golden child who actually turned to gold. Yael appeared behind him. The staff numbers are in. We need an answer tonight. I looked at my family, Mom's tears, Dad's resignation, Austin's anger, then at the job offer that could have changed everything, but instead changed nothing. You know what's funny? I said, placing the letter on the counter. I spent 10 years thinking you didn't believe in me. Turns out you believed in me so much you were willing to let me hate you. Nicole, Austin started, but I held up my hand. The business is salvageable, barely, but things need to change. I turned to Yael. Show them the restructuring plan. She pulled out her tablet, pulling up spreadsheets. We'll need to modernize completely. New systems, new approaches, new leadership, I added. Austin's head snapped up. You're taking over? No. I smiled slightly. Yael is. What? Everyone said in unison. She's been trying to save this company for years. She knows the business, she knows what needs to change, and most importantly, I looked at my brother. She knows how to admit when she needs help. Dad stepped forward. And the house? Stays in my name. Insurance against old habits dying hard. I turned to Austin. You can keep living here, but one wrong move. He nodded slowly, understanding the threat. Well, Mom said, wiping her eyes, I suppose we should go back to dinner. It's getting cold. Actually, I picked up my phone. I ordered pizza, the expensive kind, from that place downtown you always said was overpriced. Dad laughed, a real laugh, the first I'd heard in years. Of course you did. As we waited for the pizza, I texted Sophia. Remember when you said bringing the deed was like bringing a nuclear weapon to a knife fight? She replied instantly, Did you drop the bomb? I looked at my family, awkwardly gathering around the kitchen island, decades of secrets finally exposed. I did, I typed back. But maybe, just maybe, something better might grow from the ashes. The doorbell rang. Pizza arriving at the house I owned, for the family I was starting to understand, in a way I never expected. The next morning, I walked into the family business for the first time in a decade. The receptionist did a double take at my visitor badge. Clearly, she'd heard about last night's revelations. Yael met me in the conference room, spreading documents across the table. Ready to see exactly what you're saving? Show me everything. 3 hours later, my head was spinning. The business wasn't just outdated, it was practically archaeological. Paper ledgers, manual inventory, systems from the early 2000s. How did they survive this long? I muttered, flipping through employee records. Your father's reputation, Yael said. Old clients stayed loyal, but their children? She shrugged. They want modern solutions. The door opened. Austin stood there, looking like he hadn't slept. Can we talk? He asked. Alone? Yael gathered her papers. I'll go check on the implementation team. Once she left, Austin sat heavily across from me. I found Dad crying in his study this morning. Austin? No, let me finish. He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo. Remember this? It was us as kids, maybe 12 and 15, working on the store's window display for Christmas. Both smiling, both proud. What happened to us? He asked quietly. Life happened. Dreams happened. Or, in my case, dreams got crushed. I never wanted this, you know. He gestured around the office. The business, the responsibility, that was Dad's dream. Could have fooled me. Because I played my part perfectly? He laughed bitterly. While you fought and left, I stayed and pretended. Guess which one of us made the right choice? A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom entered, carrying a familiar-looking box. Found this in the attic, she said, placing it on the table. Inside were my old business proposals from college, modernization plans, digital transformation strategies, everything I'd tried to show them years ago. You kept these? I picked up a faded spreadsheet. I read them, Mom said softly. After you left, they were brilliant. She touched my hand. You were brilliant. Austin opened one of the folders. This could have saved us years ago. It still can, Yael said from the doorway. Most of these ideas just need updating. I looked at my old work, then at my family. Why are you showing me this now? Because, Mom took a deep breath, we want you to understand that our biggest regret isn't losing the business, it's losing you. My phone buzzed, Sophia checking in. I ignored it. The thing is, Austin added, we don't deserve your help. But the employees who've stuck with us through everything, they do. I stood walking to the window overlooking the factory floor. Workers moved below, their jobs hanging by a thread they didn't even know about. Yael, I called out, what's the severance package situation? Non-existent, she replied. Austin used that fund for the last loan payment. Mom gasped. Austin looked at the floor. Right. I turned back to them. Here's what's going to happen. I'm not just going to save this business. I'm going to drag it into the present. But there are conditions. Anything, Austin said quickly. First, Yael becomes CEO. She's earned it. I held up my hand as Austin started to protest. You'll be head of client relations. That's what you're actually good at. And me? Mom asked. You'll run the charitable foundation we're going to establish. Help the community that supported this business for generations. What about the house? Austin's voice was quiet. It stays in my name, but I softened slightly. As long as you stick to the plan, nothing changes. You can live there as long as you want. And Dad? Chairman Emeritus, advisory role only. I picked up one of my old proposals. He can watch his children build something together instead of tearing each other apart. Mom wiped her eyes. When do we start? We already have. I nodded to Yael, who opened her laptop. The modernization team arrives tomorrow. New systems by the end of the month. Full digital transformation within 6 months. That fast? Austin looked worried. That's business in the real world, brother. I smiled slightly. Try to keep up. My phone buzzed again. Sophia had sent a series of questioning emojis. Go ahead, Mom said. Tell her you're fixing another mess. No, I replied, typing quickly. I'm telling her I'm finally building something with my family instead of in spite of them. Austin stood, straightening his tie. I should go talk to Dad. We all should, I said, as a family. As we left the conference room, I glanced back at the box of old proposals. A decade ago, they'd represented everything I couldn't make my family understand. Now, they were a blueprint for saving not just the business, but maybe our family too. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's about building something better from the ruins. 3 weeks into the transformation, I stood in front of the assembled staff, their anxious faces reflecting the fluorescent lights of the conference room. Change is coming, I announced, but your jobs are secure. In fact, we're investing in you first. Yael stepped forward with a stack of envelopes. These contain your back pay, plus a bonus for your loyalty. The relief in the room was palpable. A few people started crying. There's more, I continued. Starting next week, we're implementing training programs. Everyone gets a chance to grow with the company. Dad sat in the back, watching silently. He'd barely spoken since the night of the revelation, but his eyes followed everything I did. After the meeting, an elderly employee approached me. "I worked with your grandfather," she said, her voice shaking. "He'd be proud of what you're doing." Before I could respond, Austin burst into the room. "We have a problem. The Martinez contract. They're pulling out." The Martinez account was our biggest client. Losing them would derail everything. "Where are you going?" Austin called as I strode past him. "To fix it. Come on." We took my rental car, Austin directing me to the Martinez office building. "They won't see you without an appointment," he warned. I smiled, pulling out my phone. "Mr. Martinez's daughter Lisa is my company's client in London. Trust me, they'll see me." 20 minutes later, we sat in Roberto Martinez's office, his daughter on video conference. "Lisa," I nodded to the screen. "Thanks for arranging this. Nicole saved our European expansion last year, Dad," Lisa said. "Hear her out." I opened my laptop, pulling up our new business plan. "Mr. Martinez, I know why you're worried. Our company looks like it's stuck in the past. But look at this." For the next hour, I walked him through the transformation plan. Austin chimed in with client relationship details, showing a competence I hadn't expected. "And who's guaranteeing all this?" Martinez asked. "I am." I pulled up my company's credentials. "My firm will oversee the entire transformation. Your account will be our priority." Martinez leaned back. "Lisa?" "Dad, Nicole doesn't fail. Ever." He nodded slowly. "Okay, we'll stay, but I want weekly updates." In the car afterward, Austin was quiet. "What?" I asked. "That was impressive. The way you handled him, the way you knew exactly what to say." "It's what I do, Austin. It's what I've been doing for years while you all thought I was just playing at business." He flinched. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do." I turned into the company parking lot. "But you were good in there, too. You know these people, their history. We need that." "We?" "Yes, we. Unless you're planning to screw this up." "No." He straightened. "No, I want to make this work. I want to make things right." Back at the office, we found Mom and Dad in the conference room with Yael, going through old client files. "Martinez is staying," I announced. Mom hugged me impulsively. "How did you—" "She was brilliant," Austin interrupted. "You should have seen her, Dad. This is what we've been missing all these years." Dad stood slowly. "Nicole, could we talk? Privately?" In his office, he didn't sit behind his desk. Instead, he went to the window. "I've been watching you these past weeks," he said. "The way you handle problems, the way you think ahead. You remind me of my father." "Dad, let me finish." He turned to face me. "He built this company from nothing. I thought I was protecting his legacy by keeping things the same. Instead, I almost destroyed it." He pulled out an old photo, him as a young man with his father. "I was wrong about everything, except one thing." "What's that?" "You. When I pushed you away, it was because I saw how brilliant you were. I thought I was setting you free." His voice cracked. "I didn't realize I was just being a coward." "A coward?" "I was afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of admitting the world had moved past me. Afraid of seeing my daughter succeed where I had failed. I thought of the house deed in my briefcase, of the power I held over them all." "The house," he said, reading my mind. "Keep it. We deserve that sword over our heads until we prove ourselves worthy of your trust again." My phone buzzed. Yael had sent the first week's progress report, ahead of schedule on every metric. "Dad," I said softly, "want to see how we're saving your father's legacy?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. As we walked back to the conference room, where Mom, Austin, and Yael were waiting, I realized something. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something else entirely. It had become redemption. "Sign here," I said, sliding the document across my father's desk. "And here." Dad's hand trembled slightly as he picked up the pen. Are you sure about this? Just sign it. The scratch of pen on paper seemed impossibly loud in the quiet office. Outside, the factory hummed with new energy, modern machines, efficient processes, engaged workers. There, he said, pushing the papers back. It's done. I checked the signatures, then pressed the intercom. You can come in now. Mom, Austin, and Yael entered, followed by Sophia, who'd flown in specially for this moment. The tension in the room was electric. So? Austin asked. Did he sign? I nodded, holding up the papers. As of now, the house deed is in all our names. Joint ownership. Mom gasped. Sophia grinned. Austin just stared. But why? He asked. You had all the power. Because power isn't the point anymore. I turned to Dad. The company's quarterly results? He smiled. A real proud smile. Show them, Yael. Yael pulled up the projections on the wall screen. Green arrows pointed upward across every metric. We're not just stable, she announced. We're growing. The modernization plan worked better than anyone expected. Which is why, I added, I'm making one more change. I pulled out another document. This one was harder to place on the desk. What's this? Dad picked it up, reading. His eyes widened. Nicole, no. Yes. I stood firm. I'm stepping back. The company doesn't need my oversight anymore. But, Austin started. But nothing. Yael's proven herself as CEO. You've grown into your role in client relations. Mom's charitable foundation is changing lives. And Dad? I smiled at him. You've learned to embrace change instead of fear it. What about you? Mom asked softly. I have my own company to run, but I'll always be on the board, always be family. I gestured to the house deed. That paper proves it. Sophia stepped forward. Tell them the other news. All eyes turned to me. I'm opening our new European headquarters here, I said. In this city, I'll be splitting my time between London and home. Home, Dad repeated, testing the word. Yes, home. I walked to the window, looking out at the factory floor. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because somewhere between plotting revenge and finding redemption, I remembered what that word meant. Austin joined me at the window. Remember when we used to play hide and seek down there? Behind the old inventory shelves, I nodded. Now it's all automated storage. Better, he said. Different, but better. Like us? He bumped my shoulder gently. Like us. Mom wiped her eyes, trying to hide it. Dad pretended not to notice, just like he pretended not to be emotional himself. Well, Yael said briskly, we should celebrate. Dinner? Actually, Sophia interjected, I had something delivered to the break room. We found the staff gathered around a massive cake, decorated with both companies' logos intertwined. Speech, someone called out. Dad looked at me expectantly. I shook my head and gestured for him to take the floor. He cleared his throat. 10 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I let fear of change drive away the person who could see our future most clearly. He looked at me, but sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to our greatest blessings. Today, we're not just celebrating success, we're celebrating family, the one we were born with, the one we chose, and the one we built together. The room erupted in applause. As people gathered around the cake, Sophia pulled me aside. Still glad you didn't burn it all down? I watched my family, Dad showing Yael old photos on his phone, Mom hugging staff members she now knew by name, Austin explaining our new systems to veteran employees. You know what's better than revenge? I asked. What's that? Being right, being successful, and then being generous enough to share it with the people who doubted you. Sophia hugged me. That's not the angry girl I met in London. No, I agreed. She got everything she wanted, And then she realized she wanted something more. The house deed sat in my bag, now bearing all our names. The power to destroy had become the power to rebuild, and somehow that felt like the biggest victory of all. Time to cut the cake, Mom called. I joined my family, standing between the past we'd overcome and the future we'd build together. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even finished, but it was ours, and that was enough.